I just ran the truck out. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to put this part in front of the video, in front of the work we did. So the things that could cause bad oil pressure on these years of Chevys. So I think it goes from 2007 to like 2013, 5.3 or 6.0s. So the gauge is reading low pressure. I mean, first you got your sensor in the back of the engine, and then there's a screen under that. A lot of the times it'll be that. So in our case, on this truck, it's not, but we pinpointed it to something on the top end. So another thing it can be, so here, this thing is called a VLOM. It could be a bad gasket, loose bolts on this thing. Sometimes will cause it. The rear cam bearing on that engine can walk ahead, and that can block off the port, or it can it can cause the port to be open to the inside of the engine. So the rear main seal cover, that also could bleed off oil pressure. And the pickup. So how to determine if it's the pickup or not is just to fill it extra full of oil, and then if your pressure goes up, you got a bad pickup O-ring. So there are those couple things, and here I'll let you watch the video how we tested all the pressures, and at the very end we test the pressure at the top, find out that she's 15 pounds different than what the other one is. So just want to give you guys a heads up, because I don't think I went into everything at the end of the video. So what I think the problem was is this engine, it's got 180,000 miles on it. It's getting wore out. I can start to hear the lifters ticking, so we got a problem there. I guarantee you the VLOM gasket is loose, and there's drips coming out of the bell housing on the bottom. So that gasket's probably leaking and getting some oil pressure by. I just doubt that it's the cam bearing, but it could be. But all right, so let's watch the video. All right, I think I got everything ready, prepped. We're all prepped and ready to get this oil pressure adapter on there and see if it compares to what the gauge says up there. So let's get this oil filter off of here. Got the drain pan. Not too tight. Let her drain. Hopefully this fits up there, but I did have to. I sanded that down, and I sanded this down in the middle there. Yeah, it needs an oil change. It's right due, and it's a little low. And she's draining back a lot. Must have an oil cooler on it. So yeah, I've driven it, and I don't. It's at the lower end of the spec according to the gauge up there. I did warm it up. It's warmed up right now. The guy told me he put a new sensor and screen in it. I don't know if he's just complaining because it's low, or if the gauge goes to zero sometimes, but it never drops out on me. Alright, there we go. Let's get this off of here. Any thread now, any minute. She's going to drop, and I'm going to spill it. So a Protec, that must be a Wix, right? I don't use them filters. Alright, I got a bunch of oil on my hands. Looks like we're going to have to clean that up a little bit up there before we put the adapter on. I'm going to move you guys right over here. Shine the light. Alright, let's just get that clean. She definitely needs an oil change. It's leaking right there at the oil cooler line connection. I think all the Chevys leak there. Let's make sure we got the right adapter. Yeah, it does screw into the oil filter, so that's got to be the right one. So get a little bit of oil on this thing. There we go. I think it's gonna work. Okay, let's plug this hole and this hole. All right, I think we're good. I got the plugs in there. Put one in here and one in there. They're not too tight. Might leak. I don't know. Let's get this thing up here. I think that's gonna work. Let's tighten it up. I've never done this before. All right, it's good. It just hit there. That's good. All right, let's tip that oil filter. I tipped the oil filter over a little bit. Let's get the gauge in there. So we're gonna use that new gauge that I just rigged up. I'm gonna put a little sealer on there. And I'm not doing it for leaking, I'm doing it so it don't gall them threads, because that's aluminum. It's probably Chinese aluminum. I want to use this tool again someday. Alright, screw that in there. Now let's get the 1/2-inch wrench and tighten that a little bit. If we could go a little more, I'd be really happy. Alright, right there, I'll be able to read that once I let it down. And let's get the filter back on there. So we're going to do a couple different things after we check it with this filter. You know, that is the wrong filter. She just barely goes on there. It hits right there. I got a little pressure on the end of the transfer case. That's all we needed. There we go. Alright, let's let her down and compare that gauge in the dash to this one, and then we'll go ahead and change this oil and put the right. Actually, yeah, we'll just change the oil and everything, and we'll measure it again and see if we made any difference. There's another thing we can do to check the O-ring on the pickup tube, is we can overfill it with oil. But so far the testing I've done, I don't think that O-ring is bad. But let's go from here and see what happens. So yeah, here's what I did. I just got my jack stand back here. Alright, can you see that? I'm gonna go start it up. Holler if anything starts leaking really bad. Alright, so I got less than 40 on the gauge in there. We got 50 out here. Let's go see that gauge in the dash. So less than 40. So we got like a 15-pound variance right there. Let's let her warm up. So we'll go ahead and let her warm up until the fan kicks on. I just had it running and the fan kicked on. So it'll be a couple minutes. I'm just going to let the camera roll. Nothing's leaking. We did a good job. All right, we're running what? About 43 pounds. We're way above the minimum. It's saying right now that the minimum should be around 21. I'm gonna see if I could run the idle up to 2,500 and get one there. So we're at 43. I found an engine speed and throttle, engine speed control. All right, I'm gonna put my scanner here. Maybe you guys can see that too. So set park and brake block, wheels, start and idle engine. We got that. Let's increase the RPM. We need data stream. We need engine data. We need RPM. No data PIDs for RPM. What about speed? Engine data. We'll just scroll. Engine speed. Engine speed. So RPM, the unit is RPM. Let's increase. She's going up. Let's go to 2,500. Oh, it takes so long. Hope I don't blow up. That's all she's given us is 1948, 1950. We're running at 50. Is at 56 PSI. Yeah, 56 PSI at 2,000. That's as high as I can get her with the scanner. All right, let's cancel that. So 56 PSI at 2,000, that's within the spec. It's 48, I think. Okay, so the low spec for 2,500 is 43, and we're 56 at 2,000. Just gonna write that down on this piece of paper. So here's what she can be. All right, let's shut this thing off and change the oil and see if we made a difference. All right, that's high enough. Let's go look at the correct filter for this. So I just looked it up in my service data. We'll get a PF 48. This will be the OE filter and it will be the correct one. So let's go ahead and change that oil and we'll see if that makes any difference at all, which I'm kind of guessing it's just going to make a little difference. I'm kind of guessing when we get up to the sensor and the screen and put a new one in, we're going to see a difference. Now, the guy said he put a new screen and sensor in there, but let's see what happens. Let's get the oil changed. Enough talking. So I'll set you guys right back here. See what I'm doing. That is not the right filter. I don't know if that's a compatible like a PF63. I don't know. So I am not going to put that jack in there. I'm just going to wrench that filter off there. If we break something, we break something. So let's get her drain in here, and she's going to be hot. Get a wrench on that. I got a couple more to go today. Some brake lines. That's hot. I can't hang on to it. Oh, that's hot. Slide this over. We're spilling on the floor a little bit. Well, that's hot. I could barely hang on to the middle tube there. I just got some cheap oil drains. I don't specialize in oil changes, but we do them. I know how to do an oil change. Someday I'll pull up the list. Like, if you work here and you do an oil change, I got a sheet that tells you exactly how to do it. Alright, real soon we're going to be able to pull that filter. Somebody is here. Might have to cut off the video. Pretty good. There she goes. She'll be coming out of that oil cooler. So yeah, I don't know. I checked a few things on this truck, and yeah, we got a bad frame. Should we go look at that? So right up here, she's all gone all the way back as far as I can see there beside the fuel tank. And then she's bad on this side. It's 180,000 miles, so we don't want to get too much into her. It's not safe to be on the road. Now, I don't want to swear, but that was a spam call. They're getting local numbers, and I'm a little upset. Our leaders need to do something. I mean, I understand we got greater problems, that's for sure. I must get 20 spam calls a day. All right, so we're just gonna let that drain out. She's hotter than a something. There's another message. That sounded like a text message. That's all. I think we did a good job on our gauge. I like it. She sure likes the drain on this one. All right, I'm gonna go get the oil filter ready. We put oil in our filters, and we put brand new oil on the gasket. I don't want to get into it, but if you don't use new oil on the gasket, they'll stick on there. And it's something I learned a long time ago. I lubed the gasket. So back when I learned how to do oil changes, it was on semis. And I don't know if you guys know what a lubrifier is or a Peterbilt. But the Peterbilt I worked on had 2 lubrifiers on it. So you got to bleed those out. If you don't bleed it out, you're going to have premature engine failure. I also worked on some Detroits that had 3 filters on the side. Now, if you don't fill them filters, she's going to starve on oil for a minute or so. So, why wouldn't the same principle apply to a car? I understand they say contamination, but no. No, you ain't going to sell me on that one. We could screw this filter off. Probably gonna make a mess here. The baby's hot, I'll tell you that. I'm gonna try to look at this number on this thing. PXL 57045. Yeah, I don't recognize that number. Oh, here's some more coming out. I think she's gonna come off now. Yep. All right, so we're leaving the oil pressure gauge on. So I'm just going to let that drip out for just a minute. Yeah, we're dripping there. So let's get this filter on. So that's tight enough. 3/4 of a turn. GM on some of theirs are recommending to tighten them down tight now. Not sure why. Get the plug back in there. It's tight enough. It's a long wrench, but I was barely putting any torque on it. It looks like that oil pressure sensor is way back there. Alright, I'm going to put in what I think is 6 quarts, and we're not even going to check the level. We're going to go straight for reading the gauges. Alright, I think we're ready. Let's go see if we made any difference at all. And then we're going to go for that sensor replacement and the screen. Alright, watch for leaks and let me know if anything's wrong. Alright, so I'm going to guess we got almost 35 in there. We're at 49 out here. There's 48. So the new oil, we lost a little bit. Is that what it is? Let me go check our thing. No, so the new oil, we had 43. The old oil, we had 43. The new oil right now, that's 46 and a half. But I understand that new oil is not hot yet, so let's let it warm up until the fan comes on. We gotta do that again. So there's 46 right there. So we'll go ahead and let her warm up. Okay, the fan is on. We're running at 43, exactly where we were before. So we didn't gain anything. I didn't think we would. So we're running 43 down there. Running about 28, I would say, on that gauge. So it's right in between 20 and 40, but a little bit less than halfway between the two. Alright, let's go for the screen and the sensor. So I got my handy dandy little screen puller. And I got my flexible extension from O'Reilly's. It's a 3/8. I got my long sensor socket. And then I got my power torque ratchet with the adjustable flex head. So I think this is what we're gonna use. I gotta need one more thing because I gotta lay over the whole top. I'm gonna go get my little pad to set down on here. Okay, I think I'm ready. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just gonna blow down there, make sure there's no debris that's gonna fall down in the hole. Next I'm going to reach back there and unhook the connector. Hopefully I can grab it with my finger. Hopefully it's in the right spot. So I got to get way up here. I got it unhooked. It's a 3-wire. So I'm just going to lay that plug back over here. I think it's out of the way. Now I'm going to reach back there, and you can kind of see down there. Alright, I'm going to unplug, or I'm going to unhook that extension. I'm not sure if that's going to work. I got the socket on there. I don't see why this won't work. Alright, finally got that plugged in. We're right up here now. That was a little tight. So we're coming out. Let me go get a thumb ratchet. So I think what we want to do is we want to screw it back down in there a little ways. And then I'll just reach back to my hand and unscrew it. Because it jammed my socket on there a little bit is what happened. Right there we got the sockets out. So there's the sensor. Let's pull the screed out. So I'm just going to reach down in there with this and cock it in there and pull it out. Just like that. So there's some crap in that. If you guys can see that. But not enough to cause any problems. It looks like it's some old stuff from it's you know what it is. It's Teflon tape or something like that. All right, let's get a new sensor. All right, I'll be right back. We gotta get a new sensor. All right, guys. I ordered in a sensor, and the one I took out is an AC Delco. So I decided, well, if they just put that in there, it didn't work. Let's just try a different one. So I ordered a standard. Right there's the number. Let's take a look at it. It does look a little different. It does come with a new screen. So here's the screen. Here's the sensor. Let's set that up side by side so you can see what I'm talking about. So it's taller, taller, and taller. All right, let's get that popped in there, get the new screen in there. I'll show you how to do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a little oil on this O-ring. This is just a little engine oil. And then I got a 10 millimeter deep socket. I'm going to use that to push it in. So I'm going to get you guys back up here. Yeah, here we go. Get the light in there. Just like that. So now I'm going to reach way back there and just set this down in the hole. And I'm going to use this long socket and push down until I feel it bottom out. Alright, so I got that back down in there. I'm going to put an extension on there, and I flipped around this way, and I was able to push it right in. Alright, screw the sensor back in there. I got it started. Alright, going back in. I just want to get her a little tighter. I can't pull on it anymore, that's as tight as I can get it. Part of the extensions. Alright, there we go. Should have just cocked down there a little bit. Alright, we got to plug that in. We'll slap this cover back on and we'll do another test. I was able to plug it in first try. That was amazing. Usually got to turn them and turn them. Now let's pick up some of this stuff, get that cover back on because we're not going back under there again. Alright, I got a tech tip for you guys. You want this cover just to slide right back on. We're just going to put a little Sil Glide on these little rubbers. There we go. It's Sil Glide. Right there. Brake lubricant. I don't use this for brakes. Alright, kind of got a sneaker. Just like that. There we go. Popped right on. Alright, let's go do this test one more time. I'm going to put you down there like I did before, and then I'm just going to tell you what the gauge says right away. We're going to let her wire them all the way up, and then look at the gauge again. I'm just assuming, this is my guess, there's not going to be any change. And another thing, this truck is not given the P0520 or whatever. There was no codes in it. Alright, going down. Hopefully you guys can see that gauge. So I'm reading 40 in there, and we're reading 55 out here. So the cluster is off. Alright, let's let her warm up and we'll see where she's at. Alright, I think the gauge is reading exactly 30. And we're at 44 PSI. Going up. Oh, that's pretty hot.
Okay, see ya. Okay.
Gotta let that drain out.
That's so funny seeing your brother drive that ugly ass van.
Let's just get it off of there. Try not to get burned here. Whew. It's just coming now. Alright, let's get this adapter off. So this adapter works. I'll put a link to that on in my description for this video. Yeah, we didn't have her on there too tight. Get that off. There we go. Alright, we should be ready to put that filter back on there. Looks good to me. There she just touched. I think I usually go about one turn. That's tight enough. Clean everything off. She could have a rear seal leaking a little bit. Alright guys, I decided to do one more test. I'm going to pull the sensor out and test it up here and see if it reads low up here or if it reads the same. So, here we go again. We're pulling the sensor out one more time today. So I rigged up my gauge, my nice one. I got her unplugged. I think that's on there. Yep, I had her just as tight as it was before. Socket back. There's our sensor. I think we're just gonna go hand tight. I got an O-ring on there. All right, let's start her up and see where she's at. So before, let me get my paper. So hot idle, we're at 43, and the last time was 44. So we should have 43 or 44 right here. So let's go start it up. We'll see where we're at. And we don't. So we're at 30. All right, can you guys see that? Let's wait till the fan comes on. So the gauge is reading right, I would say. We'll wait till the fan comes on. So what does that mean? That something in the DOD is bad? The plate or the gasket? The lifters? What? What does that mean? I'm not sure. Alright, the fan is on. We're running about 26 PSI. So we're still above the minimum spec, but I can only assume we got a problem up here. She's running right at 26. So I guess I probably need to find out where you're supposed to take the oil pressure reading at. Down there we got way more than up here. And I do hear some of the lifters starting to tick. So we probably got a problem in the lifters. Probably got a problem with the gasket seeping oil by. So that's what I think. Alright guys, so I just wanted to show you that I was checking it up here. Alright guys, you're having a good day and working hard, and thanks for watching.